Welcome to On Block Off Block by AeroCloud. On Block Off Block explores the exciting and ever-growing aviation industry with guests working in and with airports, and is hosted by AeroCloud CEO George Richardson.
In this episode, George speaks to Parker McClellan, the Executive Director at Northwest Florida Beach's International Airport, about his extensive experience spanning nearly 4 decades in aviation, the importance of teamwork, and ECP's relationship with its local community.
Right, so Parker, you really were our first customer. You're a master operator across airport ops, airport executive leadership, etc., etc. You told us exactly what you needed back in 2018 when we met, I believe in Miami. I'm not 100% sure, but at the FAC conference. It was either that or Fort Lauderdale. My memory doesn't serve me well there. However,
we're right on the line, I think.
Yeah, okay. So you really know your stuff. You've seen most things across airports, spanning a huge career. You're an amazing personality. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and you shaping our product. You're known for your brutally honest feedback and straight to the point negotiation and communication style. Welcome to On Block Off Block. Thanks for doing this.
Sure. I'm glad I could join you, George.
Cool. So long time ago, really, AeroCloud wasn't really a business at all. It was just me and Ian. I remember going to the Florida Airport Council conference, and I had emailed and messaged everybody. You know, like I think we've talked about before. I was hustling and pushing everybody to meet with me, and it was only on the last day in the afternoon when I got a text back from you that said, "Sure, I'll listen to 5 minutes, and if I like you, we'll have a drink afterwards," type thing. Do you recall that day?
Yeah, I don't remember that there was an email. I think it was really more of you going around and you were feeling pretty beat up because I don't know exactly that anybody really wanted to talk to you guys. And, we just kind of found that there was kind of a mutual interest. And, I think I've told you in the past that I was part of a couple other projects and it was intriguing. So that's why, I was like, okay, let's talk.
Absolutely. I think we needed a drink and we were super grateful for that. And it was amazing, really, because you mapped out a problem that we hadn't necessarily thought of, that effectively small to medium-sized airports needed the same powerful solutions as the large airports, but didn't have the budget, didn't have the scope and people, didn't have the time and resources to put into a project, etc. And you needed a super lightweight, new age AODB, which then became our IAM. We call that the Intelligent Airport Management Platform. And I remember talking about it, and we were mapping it out as we spoke on napkins, bar mats, whatever we could find, effectively.
You had to change pens. You were writing so much.
That is true. I think we'd written on everything. I stuffed it all in my rucksack, and then I asked you the golden question. I said, "Well, if we could build something like this, would you be interested in becoming a customer?" And you said, "Well, yeah, but you got to come and present to me and the team effectively, and come back out to Florida," which we did a couple of weeks after, and the rest is history. And fast forward, we're now here. I think we have 7 or 8 airports in your state. You've provided a lot of introductions for them, so I'm eternally grateful for what you've done for us. So thank you very much for doing that.
Absolutely, it's an opportunity, and I like to help people.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's do that. I mean, you referred to being part of other projects and innovations. Give us a bit of a flavor of what that looks like and why your contact book and your personality is so open to help and assisting. And is it the fun of doing it? Is it the benefit of ECP or the airport that you're working at? What really is it that drives that?
So I think that the first one was an airport early warning lightning detection system. And in Orlando, somebody had just been struck by lightning, and it was at top of mind, and everybody was going to go out and buy a different system. And Parker, in his infamous wisdom, which I could kick myself sometimes for that, said, I think we could put this all on one platform, put it on a network. And this was 20 years ago. So early, networks were a whole different thing than they are today. And, there was a lot of copper. So what we did was got with a company who said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." And we taking the LPATS data, which is the lightning positioning and tracking information, when you see it on TV, the dots, and then you take potentially a potentiometer that measures the static electricity in the air of the potential for lightning. You take the movement of storms, and then we put put that all together with threshold, how much time does it take to clear a ramp? And in Orlando, we had ramps that were a half mile apart. So it's a whole different, you had to have different elements, come up with some averaging. And that was really the first early lightning detection system that went across an airport. And that was, it went into Denver, and it was in Charlotte, and it was in Orlando. And I'm sure it went to some other airports, but really didn't kind of keep track after that, after we kind of got it going.
But what is
But
it
that was,
about? Obviously, those are real problems for you to solve. Do you have an interest in technology? Do you have an interest in software development? Or do you sign up to the school of thought that I do, is that if I can dream it, I can find someone crazy enough to build it?
see, I'm a little bit of all of that. So I'm a little I'm a little geeky,
Yep.
which allows me to understand what can happen. I may not be the guy that can implement it, but I am the guy that can come up with a concept and say, hey, but if we do it this way, it gives you a lead in for people that are way smarter than me that can say, oh, yeah, but if we do it this way, it'll be faster. So with the Lightning system, that worked that way. And it progressed. As networks progressed, so did it. But it was really a valuable tool, and it was a little expensive. But back then, it's not about money, it's about saving lives. That's the first one. And that was probably the most fun. I mean, there was a lot of fun in just because I learned a lot.
Mm.
Little did I know that I would all of a sudden become very knowledgeable in how lightning is developed, where the movement of storms, what causes it, and things like that. But all of a sudden you're kind of in the
In the know.
know, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was
absolutely.
fun. The next one was very similar to our kickoff with another company, and I helped them design their dashboard. So when we got to you, it was really easy because I had already done it for with another company, and that was done literally in the food court in Orlando. I've never, that one they patented, but and asked me if I wanted to be on the patent. I chose no, because I was working for Orlando. I was just doing it because that was the right thing to do. People were asking me questions, and what do you need from an operational sense? And I like to see if technology can make your life easier. And so with that system, it's still used. That dashboard has been gone through a couple evolutions and it's still used by the company today. It has a different
Fantastic.
purpose, but it's still there.
Brilliant. Let's go back a little bit to younger Parker. So only a couple of years we're talking here. Aviation's clearly in your blood. Why? What's the backstory? Why airports?
You know what? I can tell you that I remember that when my dad was in the Navy, we moved a lot. I was always intrigued by airplanes as we drove up I-95 on vacation and always could find an airport. But I think early on, I was looking at Florida Institute of Technology because, you tried to figure out the money, and underwater welding was like the thing. And then I kind of looked at it and paging through going, hey, this airport stuff's pretty cool. So I made a choice. And literally 3 days after I graduated from high school, I was on a plane my dad was stationed in New York City, and I flew from New York to Florida, and I got my pilot's license in college, first semester in college. And from that point on, there was a love, but it's truly become a passion. And as I look at that, it really has you try to make a difference in people's lives, and I think that I have been successful in that endeavor, is that I enjoy what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And as you kind of alluded, I am a little bit of a direct communicator. I kind of pride myself if nobody walks away going, wonder what he really meant.
I can attest to that, yeah.
Which sometimes goes over well, sometimes not so well, but you are who you are. At the end of the day, aviation kind of got into my blood. I had two plans. One was to fly jets for the Navy. The other was, if that didn't work, plan B was to run an airport. Obviously, I was in the Navy. My dad swore me in to the Navy December 31st, 1979. Things that you remember off the top of your head. I remember standing in his office when he swore me into the United States Navy. This day of his life and of mine. The ideal thing was I would be commissioned and we'd be in the black book, and it would say P.W. McClellan, captain, and then P.W. McClellan Jr., ensign. That's what he really wanted to see, but that didn't happen. But that's okay, because we moved on to the next step. There were some reasons why I couldn't fly, so we went to plan B, and I started as a consultant. Actually, I'm really good at being unemployed during recessions. It seems like there was one in 82, 83. if there's an environment or an economic issue, then I get a little nervous because I know what happens. At the end of the day, I started it with Reynolds Smith and Hills as a consultant, and then went to Sanford and then Orlando. Spent a lot of time, almost 20, a little more than 20 years in Orlando at the airports, and then had the opportunity to come up to Panama City.
Let's just talk about. I mean, it was a huge gig, Orlando, right? I think you held 4 or 5 different positions. I think it's very easy for people to see Orlando now, but I think when you first started, you were saying 500 employees. When you left, 1,500, 2,000 or something.
Yeah, I
The
think
monumental growth of Florida.
yeah, when I first started in Orlando, the terminal expansion, there was only half of what it is today. There was no hotel. There were 2 runways, not 4. I think that there were 250 employees at the airport. And then while I was there, I probably did 500 or 600 interviews for people as we grew. As the airport grew, I got different opportunities because of, and hopefully I was effective at what I did. And, at the end of the day, I worked for a gentleman. His name is Bill Jennings, and Bill was a great leader. And he kind of said, "Come with me," and I was his lieutenant, and it worked out. I mean, I got opportunities that other people would have never had. I've testified on Capitol Hill for developing nations in Africa. We did training. I participated in that training. So all that is opportunities that not everybody would have gotten. And because of, I guess, the efforts that I made in Orlando and the fact that I had somebody that wanted to make sure that I was successful, that helped a great deal. It gave me opportunities that not everybody would have had.
Maybe that style of wanting to not necessarily give back, but wanting to assist for everybody's sort of mutual gain, sometimes not always in your own favor as well, as a sort of a federal representative of the taxpayer, right? You can't always take advantage of those commercial outlets, but maybe that help that Bill showed you is also now you showing others, right? And you getting enjoyment from doing that. And I hope that you've enjoyed helping me, because I've certainly enjoyed being helped.
I have, George. Yeah, that working with you and Ian early on was very rewarding. It continues to be. When you hit a speed bump, you pick up the phone, you call me, going, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So we've been through a lot together in the last 6 years, and it seemed way more longer than 6 years, which isn't a bad thing.
Oh, I know, it really does. And let's just go back to MCO a little bit before we move on to sort of ECP
Sure.
and sort of dive into those. Is that, was that like not necessarily pre-Disney, but it's Orlando wasn't Orlando as we know it now, right? And now I think processing, nearly, is it 1 million passengers a week or something, just ridiculous. What was the biggest lessons that you learned there in your most senior roles?
What you recognize is that you can't do anything by yourself. You have to be part of a team. And we used to pull things off that not everybody would have been able to pull off, because we had a very strong airport consortium where the managers and the airport staff worked together, during the post 9/11, when we did the 311, the water bottles, we got the call literally at midnight that said, tomorrow morning at 5, we're not allowing any for the kickoff flights. There will be no liquids on planes. Well, literally in that 4 hours, we came up with a plan of how to do it. And we were one of the few airports in the country that didn't have delays. And here we are with a Category X airport. And everybody's like, "How did you guys do it?" Well, it was really kind of easy. We had 4 throats into the terminal. Every throat had a table, and everybody had to come by, and we went through their bags. I mean, I remember literally having to throw away perfume, a very expensive perfume that people just bought, a big water bottle of Johnny Walker Blue. That one hurt. But a lot of expensive liqueurs, again, perfumes, but just the stuff that people wanted to take on the plane. But, when you have threats against aviation, people are willing to give and take. And not everybody was happy that we're taking their stuff. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. And we were able to, because of that team building, we were able to pull that off with probably like 30 tables and a lot of people. But we didn't have delays from around like other airports did around the country. As we went through some of the hurricanes, we did the same thing. It's all about team. There's no I in team. It was all about what can we do together. And post Hurricane Charlie, there was hundreds of $millions of damage at the airport. 18 hours after the storm passed, we were operating again. Some people had some very wet shoes, but because every time it rained, the roof leaked some more. But it was the team that did it, and it's the leadership that hopefully that we were able to provide that made that difference.
I mean, you've raised lots of money on behalf of the airports that you've worked at, which is, a skill set that I would like to think that I have in terms of our investors and raising money from our investors. But, you have that sort of entrepreneurial flair that I think a lot of exec directors can learn from and ideate with. And then the other thing is that, you're always prepared to have a bit of a laugh. Like, you're super serious about your work, but you can laugh about things and joke about things. How do you think that communication style has helped you? I think that I would say it's helped you a lot, but that's my outside opinion. Would you agree with that?
I would say that when something happens, I go into what I call mission mode. And when I'm in mission mode, that means we're trying to get something done. There's an immediate need. Most things, you have a little bit of time that if everybody gets too serious, you got to have a little bit of fun. And so I really feel that what I'll do is be serious and then take 5 minutes of, never miss an opportunity to give somebody a little jab with a smile on my face. Say, I'm just kidding and I'm trying to lighten the mood. Sometimes lightening the mood isn't the right thing. I'll tell you that. I've learned that the hard way, and I've gotten my head handed to me a couple times. But at the end of the day, that's kind of who I am. And I work hard. I play hard.
Absolutely. Good. So let's sort of fast forward a little bit then to ECP, to Northwest Florida Beaches. Is it true that you take a little chest or a little cup of sand when pitching to airline execs and just tip it on the boardroom table? Tell us more about that.
So I have a treasure chest that has been covered in our white sand. And in it, when I go and pitch the airport, I have sand from our beaches. And it's not been filtered. I usually go right down to the beach, or somebody on our staff goes to the beach, gets me a baggie of sand, and I'll go. And my line is, while we're talking, I want you to play in the sand. And they look at you funny, like, what? And then you open the treasure chest, and there's the sand off the beach. And I will tell you that our sand is way different than any other sand that, from Gulf Shores, Alabama to Apalachicola, we have very special sand. And if you've never seen it, just let me know and we'll make sure that
100%. Love it. Love it. How did ECP come about, and what was appealing to you about moving?
So it was an opportunity that was to be at the beginning of a new airport. I started in August. The airport opened in late May. I was encouraged to apply for the job by a couple of the airlines that were operating here, as well as one of the FBOs. And they said, Parker, this is for you. And so I came in as the deputy for a couple of years. And then in 2013, I became the executive director. And we've just been going and going since that point in time. Actually, since 2010.
You joke about, just as we were speaking there, I said, oh, Parker, you have veto rights on the marketing of this. And you said, well, I am my marketing team. So how is wearing many hats? You live and breathe what you do. I can attest to that. You're similar to me. You're on 24/7, et cetera, et cetera. We joke about when you go on holiday, you're still at work effectively. But what advantages do you think wearing many hats are? Like you're in the weeds, but also then can run the airport and get the funding and speak with very high level government stakeholders. What's the right mix, and how have you been able to scale that?
Well, I think that part of it, when we opened the airport financially, it was very expensive. This was a $325 million project when they built it. So as we look at, what it was like, there were times that cash flow was a little tight early on. So you look at how do we maintain that present position. You had to go and sell when you're marketing the airport. You look at costs and what does it cost to operate at this airport. We were one of the newest, but we didn't want to be the most expensive. And now, believe it or not, I think the last thing I heard was we are the lowest small hub, have the lowest small hub CPE in the country, and the cost per plane passenger is in the performance metrics for airports. And so when you look at that big picture, you go to that entrepreneurial sense that you talk about is, so you say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to keep putting stuff on my plate. Unfortunately, my plate has become a platter. As we've gotten bigger, I'm really trying very hard to change my role, if you will. And, we've got a marketing person. Our finance staff has gone from 2 to almost 6. We have an operations department now that we didn't have when I started. We have a development group. There's a lot of things that are happening, but as the airport matures, so does the staff needs to adjust to that. And some of those are hard to do because everybody's relies on, well, just call Parker and he'll get it done. And there's things that you can do, as well as I do with your job, that you can pick up the phone and call and go, hey, go do this, and it gets done. Or somebody else can do it and it takes 5 phone calls, 3 follow-ups, and it just doesn't work that way. So really try hard to say, what can I do to develop people for the future? And that's what we're doing right now with our operations team. We want them to grow to be hopefully the success that I've had, as well as our staff, the rest of our staff, whether it was Richard McClellan or Darlene Gordon or Mark Adams, any of those people that have been in the business for a little while. What can we do to make people better and grow for the future?
Sure, I do remember, which was a core part of our thesis when building the business. You said, a lot of small airports in the United States are completely underloved, effectively, not by the people that are running them, but by the technology vendors that are out there. It's preventative to buy technology, preventative to invest in technology, et cetera, et cetera. And you're operating on telephone, WhatsApp, or messaging, et cetera, et cetera. So, really delving into that is, one thing I've seen with the building of our business is giving that information to all people can enable them to make better decision making, and that was right at the root of what we discussed. Do you remember that? And could you talk to us a little bit about why at a small airport everyone needs real time information?
If we go back to the beginning with our discussions about AeroCloud, it was all about what information do you need. Not everybody needs the same information. So we talked about different levels of access because the finance department doesn't need to know who's on gate 2 at 2:00. That's more of an operational issue. At the end of the day, they need to know who used gate 2 for how long. And as we've grown with AeroCloud, and AeroCloud has grown with us, is the way I really like to talk about it, is you've added the AODB, which is not what's called AODB anymore. What'd you call it? AIM?
IAM, Intelligent Airport Management.
That's right. That's right. I always call it AIM, and it's IAM. And then we go with cups. We've gone through different elements, but now we're at cups. Now, cups for us, when I put my entrepreneurial hat on, is giving us the ability to put airplanes on gates that don't belong to that airline. And then, so not only do we use the gate, we'll give the airline that has leased that gate money for the use of that gate. So it's a matter of what works for everybody. And as we look at the relationships that we have with our airline partners, they all understand how we work and that we're willing to do things that other airports wouldn't do. But I think it's the best for the partnership because if everybody wins, we all win.
Agreed. And those solutions that you mentioned there just enables a airport to make the best use of their asset as well. And if you're making the best use of your assets and you're getting paid properly for those assets, then you can invest more in creating more assets, which then inevitably helps the passenger. So when you're creating that win-win, I think that's what's highly appealing for me about small and medium-sized airports. And also, what's crazy, isn't it, how different air travel in the US has become. We had sort of a hub and spoke model, which I know we still do, and by categories, we're all a hub or a non-hub and all this sort of stuff. But now we're seeing so many direct spoke to spoke, if you will. We're seeing so many connections between small airports all across the country, and that's certainly changed, and that's certainly being invested in by the carriers, which is good news, good business for you, right?
Yeah, when we look at what happens here in the summer, we go from, and I'll take Southwest as an example, or American. I'll take Southwest first. So Southwest today has 4 round trip flights. On a Saturday in the summer, they're going to have 26. That's what really got me going on the cups. The common use was being able to put Southwest on other gates when there's delays, if there's the ability. But there's 2 cities within the entire Southwest system that flex, and that's Fort Myers and Panama City Beach. Take American. American's been in the market for 3 or 4 years, and they're down to 3 flights a day right now because it's our off season. It's opposite of Florida, which everybody gets confused because they think all Florida is the same. It's the size of Connecticut. It's like 17 hours to drive from Pensacola to Key West, just for the reference. And 2 time zones, which is something that I'm kind of known for reminding everybody that there's 2 time zones because we're not in the peninsula time zone. But back to American, they go to 16 flights, and they'll go from regional jets to mainline. So all those are all the changes that happen with growth. And with the use of the AeroCloud system, it allows us to better adapt and better utilize our facilities, which is really, when you go back the 6 years ago that we were talking about sitting around the table and you writing profusely and scribbling, and I'd love to see those notes today. Because they're probably just like, what were we talking about? Because we were on a roll. But at the end of the day, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to make this industry better and make it more efficient? And that's the way we operate this airport today.
Yeah. The airport's got some really exciting developments. You were part of some major sort of capital investments recently. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Sure. We've got two projects that are underway right now. One is an expansion of the bag room. That one's almost finished. We've doubled the capacity of our baggage handling system, more than doubled it. So we're prepared for the future. We're adding 12,000 square feet of build out space, which was going to be customs. But with the technology changes, we decided that it was more important to begin our transition to moving to the north. And we've got a 3-gate terminal expansion, about $85 million, that is programmed to begin hopefully next year. So there's a lot of things moving. Then on top of that, we're a brand new airport. We're one of the newest airports in the country. We have 4,000 acres, and economic development has been really a focus for us. We kind of live on a 3-legged stool. One is passengers, one is jobs and business, and the other is education. So from a passenger standpoint, at the old airport, we were at 312,000 total passengers. This year, we're going to close in on 1.9 million. We've got land. We just announced a maintenance and engine overhaul company that is going to be based here at the airport. We have a Canadian company that's going to build a hangar for maintenance, repair, and overhaul. So we're now doing the jobs. And with that third leg of that stool is education. Haney Technical College has an airframe and power plant licensure program with the FAA. We want to bring that from downtown Panama City to the airport so that our companies can help train these people the way they want to be trained. But really what the important part of that is that we're going to train people locally, and they're going to be able to stay, and they're going to be in high paying jobs, 115% of the average income in Bay County. So $55,000 to $60,000 a year. All those are great things that happen. And those are all things that are happening today. Our economic development folks with the Bay EDA and Florida's Great Northwest have done a great job partnering with us. And we all do it together. I mean, it's not one group couldn't do it without the other. So we're all doing it again in a partnership. And as we market that, we've got 350 acres to the north. We've got a bunch of property to the west. So all that is happening. We look at our passenger growth. COVID, what I used to call COVIDity, was really when the panhandle was discovered. If you look at our passenger numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once the governor opened the beaches in May, and then the short-term rentals again in May, that just lit us up, and we took off like a rocket.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been, Florida in general has been crazy, but you have been crazy. And yeah, I mean, one thing that's a running theme there that I think people outside airports don't fully understand, though, is that how pivotal the airport has been in specific of ECP in Northwest to be for the Bay Area. And these regional airports are so important to, like you mentioned, education, medical, commerce, et cetera, all across the board. And without an airport, your local economy wouldn't be the local economy it is now, would it?
No, and I think that when you look at airports, I look at them as regional assets as compared to a city asset. So in the Panhandle, there's 4 airports. There's Pensacola, Destin, Fort Walton, us, ECP, and Tallahassee. The 3 airports on the west, Pensacola, Destin, Fort Walton, and ECP, all have the benefit of a beach. And the beaches help make that get so that you can work from any IP address. An IP address is not a physical address. So you can go to school from an IP address. You can work from an IP address. And that has made a huge difference from the growth of this community. And believe it or not, as we look at the number of people that are homeschooled, and you go and look at our season, which used to end in August and now goes into the end of September, who's here for that week of the first part of September is all the families that the prices have gone down for the summer. They're into the fall pricing. The water's still warm. The weather's still good, but they can educate their kids and work from an IP address. What a great way to go.
It's funny how the world's changed for that. And Yeah, I mean, and house prices have gone up in the area. Like you say, more high-paying jobs. That brings the median of everything up. Better education, better streets, better medical, all the things that come with that. So it's super nice to see. So fast forward, you've still got loads of energy about what you're doing, and I love your passion. But what are the sort of trends that you would like to see, or problems that you think could be solved with technology for anybody out there that's trying to solve them?
We need to talk about a little bit about the resilience of our community. The 2010 was an oil spill. There was an economic thing in 2013, a hurricane in 2018, a Category 5 storm that came in at Tyndall Air Force Base, which is 5 miles from downtown Panama City. COVID, and now we're back. So our community has been ever resilient as we look at that. And it's the dedication of our community, the local community, as well as the region that's made all that happen. And it's been great that the airports have been able to be part of that. We see that the technology as we move forward, whether it's in the data that's provided by AeroCloud, or whether you go as simple as ordering food at a restaurant. What's going to make it so that we have transportation that is, for lack of a better term, seamless transportation, which was something that one of my former bosses used to beat in my head. We want seamless transportation. I used to get mad at him, and now I'm using it. So, but at the end of the day, what can we do to make it so that the experience at the airport gets better? Because nobody likes going through security. Everybody, but that's a fact of life. That's going to happen. There's multi levels of security that you don't even know about that happen behind the scenes. As we look at what we do with bags, people are moving. We're at the ticket counter. We're moving to to passenger bagging, tagging their bags to go get checked on the plane. We're looking at restaurants that can order their own food. They even have some restaurants that are fully automated that do the cooking and it spits it out. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but at the end of the day, there's all those things that they're going to make a difference. When you look at the gate boarding process and how it used to be, everything was over a PA. Now you have the PA, but you also get, right as they do that announcement, that you're boarding on your smartphone. So as we look at where we are with technology today, with the smartphone, I think we are where we were 20, 25 years ago with cell phones. And, if you remember, people, you probably don't remember because you weren't old enough, with a brick. You probably had your first one was one of those long, slim
Correct.
line things. I'm just guessing. But we look at that. How many people had cell phones? It was a growing trend. Now we're at that same point with information and smartphones. So I think that how we use the smartphone is going to become very important. And I think there needs to be a change in how we use it. I think, because I know that everybody's guilty of that. I try not to do it, but I sent you an email 5 minutes ago. Have you looked at it? That's not, if you want me to look at it, send me a text. But at the end of the day, how do we better utilize the information so that we're not
Falling over each other.
attached at the hip?
Yeah, falling over each other as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a massive advancement. And the sort of the way that passengers get processed is also super interesting. And the futures biometrics are coming in, and all sorts of different things that ultimately, I believe, the vision of many is, and we share the same vision. To be fair, is that you walk through as a passenger, and you're securitized, and you're assessed as you walk, opposed to having any stop-start procedure. And that's really interesting, especially for airports that are now older in terms of their market. They don't have the infrastructure maybe to process passengers that way. And airports are often constrained by the space in which they operate, or the building that they have, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a constant balance between investment in technology and change in infrastructure. Do you see that at all?
Well, we do. And I think we're almost at the point for us that it's a combination of both, where we want to maximize the use of technology, but we need more space. Our terminal was designed around regional jets, and Delta and Southwest don't fly regional jets in here. They fly 737 with 175 passengers as compared to 70. So each hold room only has 70 seats. So there's 100 people each flight standing around. We have addressed that in the American wing, what we like to call the American wing, and we're addressing it in the build-out space. There's a transition for us of physical space versus technology, but we still want to be on that leading edge of technology, but not so that people make choices not to utilize it.
Yeah, 100%
Because
agree.
there are people that don't like technology, and you really don't want to lose that one.
Sure. When we talk about airlines and airports, you are renowned for having great airline relationships, and you've done an amazing job with that at ECP and obviously at MCO as well. By airports and airlines being symbiotic and needing each other, from what I see, a lot of airlines and airports kind of have quite a lot of friction. I don't necessarily see it at your airport at all, but I do see it at a lot of my other customers' airports. What's the key to sort of making that work? I mean, we talked on about the sort of teamwork stuff, but and you can't do everything by yourself. But what have you learned that you could pass on to others that may be experiencing some friction with airline reps?
Well, one of the things that I try to do is always put myself in somebody else's shoes, whether it's the airline station manager, whether it's the properties person, whether it's George Richardson. I try to put myself in your shoes and go, okay, does that make sense? Because of the time that I've spent learning that, I understand different roles. So it does make a difference. Understanding where someone else is coming from rather than just, there was a book about getting to yes. Too many people could write the book about getting to no, but how do you get to yes? And I think years ago I read that, and I don't want to quote it because I'll probably get it wrong, but I kind of use that as my symbolism of how do we get to yes. I also believe that having a relationship with just a business relationship makes it hard. So I make it a point to get to know people as an individual as well as their business role. You and I have done that. I did it with Ian when you guys were first starting off. I do it with the airlines. So you go and find some of those personal links so that you have more to build something on than just business.
I agree.
For you, it's
100%.
that cute little dog that you have.
You know what? It's kind of funny. He's kind of famous on LinkedIn now. We've only put a couple of pictures of him, but everybody else to see him. I could just see him outside this little booth that we got here. But
Yep.
I get that,
So
and I think
I need to bring my golden retriever and just put her standing next to me. So
there you go. Good. Okay, cool, Parker. As we round out, it's been fantastic. If people want to get in touch with you, you into the whole LinkedIn thing? Is that the best way to contact you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, or that's one way. Reach out to the airport because I'm the only parker at the airport, so that makes it easy. And I walk around the terminal enough that it's not really an issue.
Sure. I love that about it. Well, thank you so much for your trust, your contribution to the building of our early product, and your continued business is very much appreciated here in my world, effectively. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and long may the story continue, and we can have many more Tito's on the rocks with a blue cheese olive at the conferences that we see each
or
other
a mule. A mule's easier for
mule.
people they're a little easier to take. But at the end of the day, again, LinkedIn or call at the airport. But I think, George, I want to say thank you for always being able to listen and wanting to talk about new opportunities. I think SMS is one that we need to talk some more about.
We do.
But I think that's an opportunity because that's something that all small airports are getting into again. And when you wanted to focus on small airports, let's maximize that. And I think this would be a great opportunity. But personally, thank you for being my friend. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your friendship. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, Parker, great. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And we'll leave it there. Maybe there's space for another episode. There's far more stories than this.
Yeah, we can probably come up with some more.
Thank you for listening to On Block, Off Block by AeroCloud. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, and remember to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with future episodes. On Block, Off Block is hosted by George Richardson and produced by Alex Greaves.